CQ, CQ, CQ. This is Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike, and you are listening to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Everything Ham Radio podcast. My name is Curtis, K5CLM, and today we're going to be talking about something just a little bit different. We're going to be talking about digital mode radio, or DMR for short. Digital mode radio is not really that big over here in the United States. However, it is really booming over in Europe. Digital mode radio is a open digital mode standard defined by the European Telecommunications Standard Institute, and like I said, it basically is over in Europe. I noticed I talked with a guy on Twitter a couple days ago that is actually over in Europe, and he was talking about how big DMR is over there, how big is it exploding, the repeaters that are just booming over there and coming online just one after another, kind of like the way that the Yazoo System Fusion is here. So over here is probably not going to be that big. Over there or elsewhere around the world might be a different story. But DMR really is more for a commercial grade or commercial radio system rather than amateur radio, or at least here in the U.S. The goals of this standard, or the goals of DMR, was basically the same as it is for like System Fusion or P25 or D-Star to a small percent. It was basically made for a low complexity, low cost, and interoperability across all bands and across all different radio manufacturers. So basically, when this went into effect, a whole big group of people came around and they made a memorandum of understanding, or an MOU, back in 2005 with several different companies like Motorola, Vertex Standard, Kenwood, ICOM, and several others. Well, in 2008, the DMR Association was formed by those several different companies and currently has approximately 40 members. Now, you might remember that I said a few minutes ago that it was made for interoperability. Well, yes, it's true, and thankfully it's not like P25 was, but it still has its limitations. DMR uses the standard 12.5 kilohertz channel, much like P25 and the other digital systems do. However, the differences between P25 or System Fusion and DMR is the audio quality. And the reason behind that is because DMR takes the 12.5 kilohertz channel and breaks it actually into two channels. So you actually only have like half of the channel that all the other digital modes have. Now, when you couple this with the forward error correction, which uses 2450 bits per second on each channel, that only leaves about 4400 bits per second for the voice to be transferred over. Now, on P25, it uses the full 12.5 kilohertz minus the error correctioning, so you have almost twice the capacity to carry that voice across, so you get a much clearer, crisper, fuller sounding voice. Now, this kind of leaves it in kind of behind the eight ball, so to speak. You have the digital format and you have the digital quality, but then they go and break it up in half. I mean, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. So, let's go a little bit further, okay? DMR is used only on VHF and above. It's used on basically from 30 megahertz to 1 gigahertz. Now, even though it's supposed to work down to 30 gigahertz, as of late 2015, the lowest system online right now is at 136 megahertz. So the further down towards 30 it gets, the worse it's going to be, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. Now, they have mainly uses in the 446 megahertz range, which here in the US is amateur radio. Over in Europe and other parts of the countries, that's not amateur radio, so it's no real big deal. But unfortunately, there has been instances where a DMR radio has made its way over here to the U.S. and caused harmful interference. Now, we all know, if you're a ham radio operator here in the U.S., that because 440 is not for commercial use, it's primary for government use, and then amateur radio has secondary use of it. They're both licensed entities or licensed operators, so they take priority on anything that happens on those frequencies. So that person that was using that DMR radio here in the U.S. was actually causing interference, and they were the ones that had to move. Now, when we talk about that, most of the time, those radios that come across or come over to the US are more than likely like little FRS radios, okay? They're low power, so they really don't cause that much interference, but it is possible. And we'll talk about the different levels here in just a minute. Let's get back a little bit to what we were talking about before. DMR really relies on short bursts of interference for its forward error correcting to work properly. If you get more than just a small amount, the error correcting won't work, therefore the radio won't work. So the lower the frequency, the higher the white noise, the higher the noise floor is, and the less likely that it's going to work. That's why you really don't see anything like this on the lower frequencies. So, what's really the difference between analog and DMR? Well, really, the DMR, it has quote unquote better coverage than the conventional analog system do. Now, in all reality, it probably has at least about the same. But the real issue here is that with the DMR system and the error forwarding, you have to have a real high signal strength in order for it to work. So let's say your signal is about an S7 or so on your S meter. Now it's going to work great. Your sound quality is going to be great. Your range is going to be great. Okay, versus the analog. Now, according to some study that the DMR Association did, it's something like 11 dB over an analog system. But when you get to the outer fringes of the area, when you drop below that, say S7, S5, something like that, analog takes over, and it becomes the better system. You know how it is with an analog system. You know, you can still hear the person just fine, even though they might have a little bit of noise. Well, unfortunately, with the way that the DMR system is, you get that little bit of noise, and it doesn't really work that well. Then you couple this with the way that DMR splits the bandwidth that it uses, and it just loses altogether. So, you know, if you're in a very limited area, yes, you might have better signal quality or better sound quality, but when you get into a larger area, then I'm not sure that the payoff is worth the cost of the radios. So let's talk a little bit about the different tiers that DMR has. Now, they're much like the P25 system. There are 3 tiers. Okay, Tier 1 and Tier 2 were released in 2005 and were used just on a conventional system. And by conventional system, I mean like a non-trunking system. Tier 1 is basically like an FRS radio. It is a unlicensed radio that uses the European 446 megahertz band. And like we said before, the 446 megahertz is designated for government and amateur radio use here in the US, so it can cause harmful interference. But because these are consumer applications and they are unlicensed, they're limited to a maximum of only half a watt. Now, you bump up to the next level, which is the Tier 2, is designed more for a commercial use. Okay, you have to be licensed for this, and you can have a higher power system. On this frequency, other than just the 446 megahertz band, you have a wide range, ranging anywhere from 66 megahertz to 960 megahertz. this can be used for a whole bunch of different things. It adds spectrum efficiency, it adds advanced voice features, and integrated IP data service, much like the System Fusion or the D-Star or even the P25 uses. So it does have more power, therefore you're going to get out further, therefore you're going to have more range and a better signal, a better sounding audio, but it still has that split channel using only the 12.5 megahertz. So that takes us to the last one, the Tier 3. Tier 3 was launched with the original first two back in 2005, but was launched later in 2012, and it was geared more towards the trunking radio systems, much like you see with public safety and stuff like that. It also has the range of 66 to 960 megahertz, but it also still has the same limitation of the two channels in the 12.5 kilohertz bandwidth. But it does support short text messages where it can be a predetermined text message, or you can have it basically like a keyboard to keyboard conversation. And it also has packet data transmissions. Now, I'm not sure exactly if this is like file transfers or something like that, like you can with D-Star or something like that, but it does have it. So, basically, what do you think? I mean, the D-Star system, yes, it has its benefits. It does have the digital, format that everybody's supposed to be going through to, and it has the extra features and stuff. But like I said before, I don't see this being big in the U.S. I may be wrong, but I don't think so. Especially with D-Star, being the first out and having the most features right now, and then the System Fusion coming along and exploding like it is. I just don't see DMR really taking off, at least in the amateur spectrum. Now, in the commercial system, I may be wrong, and that may be different, and which it very well might be. I don't have much experience with the commercial radio system. Now, with everything supposed to be going to digital, then this may be what it has to go to. So that about wraps up the DMR topic for today. You know, over the last four episodes, we've talked about four different types of digital voice communications. We talked about D-Star, we've talked about Yaesu System Fusion, we've talked about Project 25, and now we've talked about DMR. Now, each one of these has its own ups and downs. Each one of them has the things that it needs, the functionality that it needs for the digital system, and each one of them has, better sound and quality. Each one of them has its usage. But really, why do we have to go to this? I mean, the saying says, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Um, Unfortunately, it kind of was broke in a sense because there's only so many frequencies out there, and there's a whole lot of people, and that number is growing exponentially as we speak. They say that a baby's born every 30 seconds or something like that. So, the population of the world is growing, and it's going to be not too long in the distant future where we're going to have more people talking on the radios than we do now. So, going to this digital system, it's breaking one channel on the analog system down to basically two channels. So it's going to make it where we have more frequencies to use, and that's a whole lot better. Back in 2002, 2003, I want to say, here in the U.S., shortly after 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security launched a new emergency system. As most of you know, it's the National Incident Management System, or the NIM system. Part of this new system or new regulation was that you had to have interoperability, and it pushed more towards digital communications. Now, a lot of this has to do with the public safety aspect of the radio spectrum, so it's geared more towards P25. But it's also moving, but that push is pushing everybody else to do the same thing. to get the better sounding, the functionality of the digital system, um, the smaller bandwidth, so that more people can use it and all that. So that's really what I think has pushed the D-Star system and the System Fusion and DMR and Project 25 to be what they are now. Is it something that we could do without? Maybe for a little bit, but I think eventually it's going to have to go to it. Now, I did say a little bit ago with an M system, it's talked about interoperability. The goals of this when it first started was that interoperability was that any one agency or any one group of people could talk to any other without any issues like it has been in the past. So that brings up the question is why, with all these different digital radio systems, can they not talk to each other? You get like D-Star, for example. It just kind of baffles me that it even came about. Because with D-Star, you're digital only. You basically leave the analog world behind, and you have to buy a certain radio. Now, it's I think the fault of the manufacturers why basically there's only one brand of radio that uses the D-Star system, and currently it's ICOM, as all of you know. Kenwood doesn't even have a digital mode radio, period, which is kind of sad because I'm a Kenwood guy. Out of the 9, 10 radios or so that I've had in the past 20 years or so, all but I think two of them have been Kenwood, and those two radios were like the first two radios that I bought. Now I will make an exception to that because right now I have a Baofeng um, handheld radio, which who doesn't pretty much now. But why is it that all these different manufacturers aren't getting together and using the same system? The D-Star system isn't open source. I mean, it wasn't even made by ICOM. Okay, it was made by the Japan Radio League or something like that. So, why is it that everybody can't get together and play nice? I guess basically is what I'm asking. But who knows? That's something for somebody else to answer that knows a little bit more, or that is not the end user, the common user. You get the higher ups; those are the ones that answer those questions. But me that uses it at the end, it doesn't make any sense. But anyways, that about wraps up this segment of the podcast. With this episode, we're going to be talking about the Montgomery Amateur Radio Club in Montgomery, Alabama, today in our Amateur Radio Club Spotlight. So let's move on to that. So in today's Amateur Radio Club Spotlight, like I said, we're going to be talking about the Montgomery Amateur Radio Club in Montgomery, Alabama. This club started in 1938. That is a very long time ago. It's something like almost, 90 years or something like that, or close to it. So this club has been around for a very long time. Their club call sign is W4AP. That's William Whiskey for Alpha Papa. Yay, I got my international phonetic alphabet that time. Yay me. You can find their website at www.w4ap.org. It's whiskey4alphapapa.org. They have meetings on the third Monday of each month at 7 p.m. with the exception of December. In December, they have a awards banquet type thing or something like that at some restaurant. Their normal meetings are held at the American Red Cross building at 5015 Woods Crossing Drive there in Montgomery, Alabama. So if you're around in Montgomery one third Monday of the month, you might check them out. They also have several nets that they have. So I think it's like on Mondays and Thursdays and Fridays, I believe, if memory serves. I actually didn't write it down for some reason. Shame on me. But they do have several repeaters also that they use. They have a 146.84 repeater that's in. I'm going to butcher this name really bad, so for all y'all that live there, please forgive me. It is in Watupka, I believe, is how you pronounce it. They also have a 146.92 repeater. It is a D-Star repeater. It is also connected to the internet and is in Northeast Montgomery. They have a 147.18 repeater. It has a 123.0 tone, and it is in South MGM County. Now, I'm not sure exactly if that's the county that Montgomery is in or a neighboring one, but it's supposed to have like a real good range, and it's supposed to be like a really popular one for the area. Now, they have two 440 machines. They have a 444.5 repeater with a 100 tone. That's also located in Wetumpka. And they have a 443.975, which is also a D-Star repeater in Northeast Montgomery. Both the D-Star repeaters have an internet gateway, like I said. They also have digital repeaters. Uh, First off, I'm gonna go off on. I'm gonna let y'all know what about these digipeaters, and then I'm gonna got a little comment here that's really kind of blew my mind here the last couple episodes. They have a packet BBS on 145.69. They also have a digipeater. Both of them use the W4AP call sign. The BBS is -1 and the digipeater is -2. They also have a several APRS digipeaters, and one of them is located in East Montgomery. It is the W4AP-1 digipeater. They have one at the uh, the Alabama EOC in Clinton, I believe. That's a W4AP-3 digipeater. And they have one which has an iGate on the Baptist South Hospital, which is W4AP-5. Now, the thing that's really blew my mind here lately, okay, I'm going to get off on a little tangent here. I've noticed a lot here in the past couple episodes that I've done when I've been doing these um, club spotlights, how much packet radio is still alive. Now, I don't know if it's just, on the eastern seaboard or in the southeast, since, the last couple that I've done has been on the east coast uh, or in the southeast area. I don't know. But it really surprises me that packet is such a big thing. Around here where I live, packet is all but died. We have APRS, but we don't have packet. I mean, as far as I know, granted, I haven't been on packet in 10 to 15 years, but everybody I talk to is APRS. It's not packet. If it's still alive out there, that's awesome. It's a really neat tool. Back when I used it, it was a really neat tool, and it's something that could still be used. Now, granted, we have a new system that's coming along, the Hamnet mesh network that could possibly take over. But anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here. Back to the club. They have several events that they sponsor also. They have a Ham Fest that is on Saturday, November the 19th this year, starting at 9 a.m. It is also hosting the Alabama State Convention as well. They have several things there at the Hamfest other than just tables and stuff. They offer VE testing like most Hamfests do. They have lots of informational forums, lots of door prizes in both an indoor and an outdoor area. They also participate in Field Day. From what I understand, it's a pretty good size event for them, which is really neat. One of these days, I would really like to go to a big club for Field Day and really see, those 10 alpha stations or 8 alpha stations, or I think I even talked to one that was like a 32 alpha station. How they do that is just beyond me. The club also does several public service events. They do Skywarn and they do Aries. They also do several walkathons and bike races. Again, like I mentioned in the last episode, it really makes me proud the way that amateur radio is so community services orientated. And that's why I got in the hobby, and I'm sure that's why a lot of other people got in the hobby. It just really prides me to see the way that amateurs from all over the world uh, do stuff like this. So, anyways, that's the close spotlight for this episode. Again, we're talking about the Montgomery Amateur Radio Club in Montgomery, Alabama. Again, their website is www.w4ap, that's whiskey for alpha papa.org. Go there, check them out. Tell them I sent you. Tell them I said hello. Um, if you would like to get your club uh, on my podcast, shoot me an email at k5clm at everythinghamradio.com. Again, that's Kilo 5 Charlie Lima Mike at everythinghamradio.com. Tell me your club name, your website address, and a little bit about your club. I would really appreciate it if the website is up to date so I can get more information than just what you're telling me. So if you want to have your club spotlighted on my podcast, send me that information to that email address, and maybe I'll talk about it. Maybe I'll choose your club. So I guess that's about it for this episode. Please remember to subscribe to my podcast. Also, please share it. Give me a honest review and a star rating on iTunes. You can do that by going to everythinghamradio.com/iTunes. Please like me on Facebook at facebook.com/everythinghamradio, and follow me on Twitter at K5CLM. Also, head on over to our website. I have lots of information over there that I'm sure you're going to love. Check that out. While you're there, subscribe to my page so that you'll get emails on when I publish a new podcast and a new blog post. Just click on the subscribe button at the top of the page, fill out the form. When you get the email, there's a little link in there. Just click on it and you'll be subscribed. You could also go there directly at everythinghamradio.com/subscribe. So, until next time, this is K5CLM 73, and I'll be signing out.